following the shock announcement that the government will no longer scrap the top rate of tax because, in their words, they've listened and they get it. This afternoon, the Chancellor addressed the party's conference, saying he was still focused on growth after a little turbulence.
What a day. It has been tough. I know the plan put forward only 10 days ago has caused a little turbulence. I get it. I get it. We are listening and have listened. And now I want to focus on delivering the major parts of our growth package.
While Tory loyalists were keen to avoid accusations of a U-turn.
It's not a U-turn, Alison, it's a change of direction. That's what it is, a change of policy.
Others were less supportive, with former Culture Secretary and until recently a Truss fan, Nadine Dorries, taking to Twitter to call for an election. Today's policy pivot from the PM has invited comparisons with this footage from her leadership race, when, if you remember, she struggled to walk the right way out of a room. So, has this backtracking done enough to ease fears in her party, the markets and, crucially, the country? talkTV's political editor, Kate McCann, gave us her analysis earlier tonight.
Kwasi Kwarteng hopes that he can now calm the markets by emphasising the other parts of his plan, which he believes will be more reassuring. But that big political question looms heavy here, and there are many, many MPs who say it was wrong for my constituents, I've lost faith in my leaders. And crucially, if Kwasi Kwarteng and the Prime Minister don't stand for these really conservative policies and not turning away from them, well, what do they stand for?
Well, let's throw it to you, Dr. David Bull. I mean, is it ever something that you can make mileage out of? A U-turn after just 10 days when you made such a huge statement that literally rocked the world?
So basically, the word of the day is we've had some turbulent times as the Tory budget airline descends into a mountain. The whole thing, to quote Mary Poppins, it's a ghastly mess. I mean, it really is. This is a lesson in how not to deliver policy. And essentially, you may well agree with the policy, but actually, in terms of the timing, in terms of the way it was delivered, it was just shockingly awful. Actually, if you dig into that, I think they made a number of strategic mistakes. So firstly, I would take everyone who earns under 20,000 out of tax completely, and what they've done is it's been skewed so that it seems as though they're giving tax cuts to the super wealthy. It's gone down very badly. It's a really bad PR disaster.
It's called a truster clock.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that correctly.
I said that very carefully.
That was good.
Thank you very much. And I think that's the... I mean, they have barely got their feet under the table and they've already made a mess of everything. And do you know what? And also, I'm sorry, but his little sort of, you know, oh, we've had a little bit of turbulence and everything. I'm sorry, people are terrified.
Yeah,
and doing and downgrading it to, oh, we've had a little bit of an issue, we've had a little bit of a problem, oh, there's a little bump in the road. Frankly, I mean, there'll be lots of people who are saying, I'm sorry, you have made a total mess. You are now known, as we know from yesterday's paper, as the useful idiot, after he went to go and have his, you know, champagne breakfast after making after making his statement. You know, it does not look good. There's a quote by Dan Snow in yesterday's papers, which I've committed some of it to memory, and he said it was the worst thing since King John in 1216 got dysentery at Norfolk, lost the crown jewels in the wash, and died in Nottinghamshire. And you know, and the trouble is, it does not look even remotely good.
And JJ, he didn't say sorry.
That's
he
it.
didn't look contrite.
Yeah.
He didn't hang his head in shame.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't apologise for the turmoil that he's plunged everyone into. I'm using turmoil instead of turbulence. I think it's more accurate. You know, he didn't do sorry at all.
Exactly.
And actually, neither did she. I mean, Liz Truss was just clapping and slightly distancing herself, but also what the hell?
The fact that they've said, we listened, we understand, well, you clearly haven't, because you haven't said, actually, we made a big mistake by trying to reward the richest people. But I'd be surprised if Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss and Jake Berry, if those three are in the same positions in 6 months' time,
I would
be
agree.
very surprised. Jake Berry tried to threaten the MPs who were going to revolt and say, I'll remove the whip. And then more MPs come out and said, don't care, we're like, suspend us then.
And Nicola, what do you think of the whole thing?
Complete disaster. I mean, it's humiliating for them, which I'm kind of glad about, because they deserve to be humiliated putting across a policy like this. There'll be absolutely nobody happy today, except possibly people who were in the 45p tax rate who didn't want to lose that extra tax.
And also all the hedge fund people and the people who shorted the pound, those will all be happy.
They will all be happy.
They'll be very
Voters,
happy.
generally speaking, will not be happy. If there was any trust whatsoever in Truss, it has gone now.
And there's a really important point here. So Liz Truss wants to be Margaret Thatcher. And remember, Margaret Thatcher famously said, this lady is not for turning. And they have done exactly that. But also, I've just heard the news that the medium-term fiscal event essentially is going to be pulled forward to this month. So clearly they're backtracking again. This is a rudderless, chaotic
This is the one that was meant to be November 23rd.
November
now
23rd.
Is it?
But
can I ask you one last question,
Yes.
David, though? I mean, do you think it's true that following the very sad death of the Queen and Liz Truss's very dignified participation in readings and you know, handshakings and ceremonies and all of that, that she did have a little oasis of goodwill there?
She did.
And do you feel that it's already been utterly squandered and evaporated so soon?
Well, yes, I do. I think you can see the naivety. I think you can see the inexperience. I think you can see she's an academic, but I don't think she really understands the mood of the country. And that's where I think this disconnect has come from.
And she said that she didn't mind if she was unpopular. But there's unpopular and then making a total...
But also, if you commit to something as a government, you stick to it.
Yeah.
And that's where it's gone wrong.